I did something rather dumb recently. I went to make a cup of tea, and as I usually do, I turned on the range to boil some water in my vintage CorningWare kettle. I love this little thing. I bought it from the thrift store about a decade ago, and I use it every single day. And then my dog Bronco reminded me it was time for our walk. You might see where this is going. So we went for our walk and came back about 20 minutes later, only for me to find that the little kettle was steaming like mad. Yes, my tiny brain had totally forgotten that I'd left the stove running the whole time. Luckily, there was still water in the kettle and the only damage was to my pride. But this could have ended far worse. At that moment, I decided it was time to buy an electric kettle. You know, the kind that plugs into a wall and automatically shuts off when you leave it running while you take the dog for a walk. I didn't have a specific kettle in mind, I just wanted it to look nice and automatically shut off when the boil was reached. As the thrifting fates would have it, just days later I found this guy new in the box at my local Goodwill. Now, to be perfectly honest, I'd never heard of the Haden brand, but with a little bit of research, it turns out they're kind of a big deal. In fact, they claim to have pioneered the electric kettle and some of its modern safety features. Now, full disclosure, I paid for this myself, and this is not sponsored by Haden. They have no idea who I am or that I'm even making this video. I'm just super excited to share this thrifting find with you, and well, maybe it'll inspire you to get a similar sort of kettle if you're absent-minded like me. And as it turns out, this is no run-of-the-mill electric kettle. It's got some really special and unique features. I've been using it for a couple weeks now, sometimes several times a day, and it really has been a game changer for both my morning routine and my kitchen in general. So some stats first. This is a 1.7 liter kettle. For us Americans, that's just a little over 7 cups of water that it holds. And this retails for somewhere around $80. Now, I only paid $18 for this, so it was quite a deal. But even at its full price, I still think it's a compelling value because, well, it's got some unique features. First and foremost, it won't burn down the house if you leave it running because it automatically shuts off. Other electric kettles, of course, do that, but again, this one is a little bit unique, and let's start with its design. I just love the design of this thing. I've never really seen a kettle like it. I think it's so cool. The way it looks, just its shape, it really stands out, and I think it makes a nice design element in my kitchen. Another thing I absolutely love about this is it's got an analog temperature gauge. I think that is just so cool because you can literally watch the needle go up as it boils. And this gauge, well, it reminds me of like a speedometer in a car, specifically a Mini, which kind of makes sense because this is a British brand kettle. So, well, hey, it's kind of like that British car. The way it works is there is a rod inside the kettle, just like a thermometer that you would use to measure meat or something. And what that does is that just measures temperature as it goes up. It's really cool to watch. Now, I should note that Haden makes other styles of kettle, but I believe this is the only one that has that temperature gauge. And this particular model is called the Dorset. And that isn't the only exterior gauge on this kettle. It also has a water level gauge that you can see right here. There's this see-through window, and you can see how much water is in the kettle at any time just by looking through that window. That's a pretty cool feature. And surprisingly enough, here's another feature I love about this, the on and off switch. Check this out. Once you press it on, it has this cool blue illumination to it, this little light. It also has a really nice tactile feel to it and an audible feel. You can hear a nice clicking when you turn it off and when you turn it on. And of course, when it comes to the boil, it automatically turns off. Another interesting component is on the inside, and that is a little filter that goes right before the outlet. And what that does is that removes any lime scale that might build up in the kettle. And another cool thing is that it actually comes with an extra filter. So This comes in the box, and I think that's pretty neat that it not only has a filter, but it comes with an extra one as well. Now, as much as I dig this electric kettle, I'm not donating my old vintage Corningware one just yet. And that's because I found that this really is best for pouring applications involving tea. When I tried to make pour over coffee with it, I found that the stream just wasn't very good. Interestingly enough, I have much better luck getting a nice steady stream with this old Corningware kettle versus this electric kettle due to its wide shape. But for making tea, well, it really is great, and I think it pours really, really well. Perhaps ironically, I also have another use for this kettle because I use this tea infuser and I like to cover my tea after I make it so it stays warm. This lid with its spout aperture perfectly covers where the rod comes up from my tea infuser. See, the best of both worlds. So that is my latest thrift store score. Definitely a practical one that I am using every single day. Now I'd love to hear from you. What is your favorite kettle? Put that in the comments below. Okay, trivia time. Last week I asked you to identify this thing and several of you got it right. This is, of course, a tomatillo. I made a whole video on tomatillos. These little buggers are great. They are so flavorful, and I'll put a link to that whole tomatillo video in the description below so you can check it out, get some recipe ideas. These things are just bursting with flavor. For this week's kitchen tool trivia, boy, do I have an odd one. Speaking of thrift store finds, I actually scored this one just last week. Who knows what this thing is? In fact, I'm not entirely sure. I think I know what this thing is, but let me know what you think by putting your guess in the comments below. And of course, I will let you know what I think this is in the next video. Hey, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Until next time, I hope you want to cook.